going to shoot into a video on how to gain energy from work and how to be very, very stingy with your mental capital, your energetic capital, so that you're so overwhelmed with energy that you feel like you're getting high when you're being productive. The advantage of this is that your competitors are going to get just destroyed because they can't keep up with you. It's not really the reason to do it. It's an inadvertent effect that will happen by accident. In addition to that, you'll get to the point that you go out to a bar or club and you're just meeting everybody there and you're completely fearless and you're in such a great state and you don't get tired from meeting new people. You're respectful of people, you always are, but you're not tired from it. It's also going to get to the point where you have so many different outside-the-box ideas and you're so creative. And the reason why that's happening is because you've stopped burning down all your mental capital and energetic capital on garbage. And instead, what you're doing is you're connecting to the energy of life, not death. And as a result, you get very, very creative and you wind up making a lot of money. This winds up being an upward spiral because you've got more cash, you've got a better social life, you've got more energy in general to do what it is that you want to do, which then you get better things, and then you can afford things like supplements and better situations to recover yourself and more fun, and life just goes up and up and up. So do you want to learn how to gain energy from work? We're going to talk about it. I'm going to be teaching you something that I've learned from decades of going to bars and clubs. And I spent pretty much from my early 20s until my 40s in bars and clubs almost every single day, just working on meeting people, working on being more social. I did a lot of bars and clubs because that was the highest volume of people, but I also did a lot of daytime environments too. I just basically socialize. And from that, I got the ideas that I'm going to teach you here, which I'm going to teach you how to use for work, okay? But that's the sourcing of the ideas. So I'm going to explain to you what I discovered in bars and clubs, but then we're going to show how to apply that to work in general. So what I found from all these years of going to bars and clubs was that sometimes I would go home just spent. Like, it would be to the point that I was so demoralized that I never wanted to go out again. I was like, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. This is terrifying. This is upsetting. This is making me exhausted. I hate this. I was just really, really thrown off by how tough it could be. But then other nights I'd go out and it was like this high. It's like a sober version of cocaine. I've never done cocaine, but it's like a sober version of cocaine. And it would be to the point that I would be laughing the entire time and everything would be effortless and it would be so much fun. And it gets addictive. It gets addictive to the point that the fun of just going out in general is more fun than, running off into the night with somebody special. It just becomes the most fun thing in the world, just going out. It's this crazy, crazy addiction that you'll get over time. So this was sort of this fluctuation that I saw, and from this, I learned how to adopt it into day-to-day life for work. Okay, so let's get specific. What is it that I noticed on commonalities that when I went out, I was flying and had endless energy and gained energy from going out? And what did I notice when I was losing energy? When I was gaining energy, it's when it wasn't about me, but it was about adding to the vibe of the club itself. It wasn't about any one single individual in the club or bar or daytime social environment. It was just about adding something. And it was never about me wanting something. It was about me giving something. It wasn't about adding to my ego. It was about my ego dissolving and going away. Okay, so these are some commonalities. Now, on the nights that I actually hated going out, what I noticed was that it was all about my ego. It was about affirmation of my ego. It was about me getting approval. It was about me being lazy and wishing that I didn't have to go out in order to get better social results. Like, why would I want to go out, work on my dating life, and I could just say, here, what's the easiest way to do it that I can? I just want it to be easy, right? Or I want to get my ego affirmed. Or it's about taking. It's about not adding to the environment, but it's about getting energy from the environment. It's about taking energy from the environment. So over time, what I developed, I called it the 3 fatigues. Sometimes I call it the 4 fatigues, the 5 fatigues. But here's basically what it was. The 3 fatigues, what I said, is that one of them was willpower fatigue. And willpower fatigue came from being like, should I go say hi? Should I not go say hi? Maybe I will go say hi, maybe I won't. What do they look like? What do they seem like? I don't know. Who are they with? I don't know. And the way that I got over willpower fatigue was I just said, I'm just going to say hi to everybody. I just go say hi to everybody. Who cares? So that I wouldn't be burning down my willpower. I'd be in a state of momentum. So it became effortless because it was basically reclaiming all that energy from my prefrontal cortex that was being used to decide. It was this sort of willpower fatigue or decision-making fatigue. Instead, I just rode the wave of momentum. That was one of them. The other one was what we call persona fatigue. And a persona fatigue is this idea that you're putting on this sort of personality that's not really you. Now, this has to be clearly distinguished from working on your communication skills, okay? This can become an excuse for laziness, an excuse to be a loser, an excuse to be a taker, okay? But generally, if you're in that mode of giving and you've worked on your communication and you kind of understand what it is that you're going with, then the less of a persona that you put on, the better. You're not burning down energy. Trying to maintain a kind of a mechanical persona is extremely exhausting. So I got rid of the persona. And then all of a sudden, I got rid of persona fatigue. The last one was self-judgment fatigue. And self-judgment fatigue is the idea that you come out of that interaction and you start judging yourself. So let's look at how those kind of size up compared to what I just talked to. The decision-making fatigue or willpower fatigue, that's from just wanting to be lazy. You're just being lazy, just being lazy, just being lazy. The persona fatigue, you could connect that to your ego. You could connect that to wanting to take. You could connect that to wanting to be lazy because you're trying to be this kind of fake person to get something. And then likewise, self-judgment fatigue, like just sitting there kind of like, attacking yourself when you come out, oh, that didn't work, they didn't like me, stupid, stupid. It's this kind of egoic thing. So instead what you do is you go out and you're meeting everybody and you're being you and you're not judging yourself and you're just kind of riding off this wave of momentum. And what winds up happening is that the more that it's kind of like you go away, the more that you go away, the more that you get this crazy high. Now, part of why I kept going out again and again was for professional reasons. I'm teaching social skills, so I want to make sure that what I'm teaching is very, very well tested and that I'm doing it at a high level. But the other reason that I went out all the time, to be honest with you, was because I'm getting high off of it. Okay, it's like a drug addict. I'm getting high. I'm getting high from the egolessness of going out. I'm getting high from the flow state. I'm getting high from the momentum of going out. I'm getting high from being able to control my own focus and the lessons that I'm getting from controlling my own focus and how it's building my willpower by training me to use my willpower, training me to use my focus, training me to cultivate empowering beliefs, and training me to get present in the moment and training me to be in a flow state. And so it was the years and years of me being out in clubs that kind of forced me to do this. And here's what's kind of funny about it. In the daytime, I can get away with not being like that. Like I can be in sort of a taker mode. I can be lazy. I can be about my ego, and so on and so forth. In the daytime, I can get away with that because there's not a direct punishment that I'm getting from that. So what winds up happening by going out, though, is that if in day-to-day life you can get away with being in this lazy, egoic taker mode, you can't get away with that when you go out. See, what starts happening when you go out is you get this sort of automatic feedback on your state of being. It's a crazy thing, right? Because if you go out and you're about your ego, or if you go out and you're in a taker mode, if you go out and you're lazy, quickly people don't want to talk to you as much, right? Especially if you're not somebody who's like, classically good looking, right? You're not a classically good looking person. Probably nobody's going to talk to you at all. But what winds up happening is that when you go into that mode, you get this high off of it, okay? You get this crazy, crazy high off of it. And when you're in that kind of a flow state, other people feel that coming off of you, and they start saying things like, you're awesome, you're amazing, I love you. And you have this kind of really powerful vibe that people are feeding off of. And that's when it gets really fun, because now you can say things like, I don't know if we could talk anymore. They're like, no, I want to talk to you. You're like, I don't know, maybe I'll talk to your friend. You start, and you don't even say it, you just do it. And now all of a sudden it's like they're kind of fighting and clawing to get back into that energy. They're saying things like, I love your energy, I love your vibe. And then, you're getting a lot of positive feedback like that. So ironically, it kind of kicks off this upward spiral, because when everybody's loving you, it also makes it easier for you to get in a flow state, frankly. You shouldn't rely on it, by the way, but it just frankly makes it easier. That's actually, though, also, side note, why you'll have ups and downs with social skills, because what happens is when you're operating independent of needing other people's validation, and you're kicking off those habits easily, then what winds up happening is you get better and better results. But then as you get better and better results, you start to feed off those results. But then as you feed off those results, at some point, those results withdraw, because maybe just people didn't like you on a given night by fluke or random chance. And then what happens is that you actually go into a bit of a downward spiral. And then as you go into a downward spiral, you're not doing as well. And that's why progress is typically more like that, okay? It's the more that you actually disconnect from that external approval and you keep those good habits that we've been talking about thus far in the video, that's when you tend to do better, okay? So the going out is what kind of alerts you to these incredible habits. And what winds up happening, this is kind of what would happen to me, was over the years, I've wound up going to bed very, very late because it can be a little bit hard to get to sleep. And I wind up doing a lot of after parties. Like, that's just very common. I'm doing after parties almost every night up at my crib or my friends' cribs or on the road. And I'm doing that because I'm getting such a natural high or a natural buzz off of this, and my mind is just so sharp, it's crazy. I'm having so much fun, I feel completely incredible. That what winds up happening is it's actually a little bit hard to go to sleep. It feels so good, you don't want to go to bed. So that's been a powerful thing. But, you know, luckily at some point I do get to bed, right? At some point. And so what winds up happening is that as I'm doing this, I'm training my mind to operate from this state. And so I think what we'll do next is I want to give you some very, very specific exercises or ways to kind of initiate this state. And then if you bring this into your work, what you're going to find is that you just gain energy from work, and it gets really, really crazy. From an exercise perspective, what I try to do is I try to connect to that sort of no ego spot in the brain when it is that I'm going out. So for example, I'm very much in the process itself, not so much in this sort of dopamine spike or absence of a dopamine spike kind of world that I used to be in, right? So when I'm younger, it was like, oh, we had fun, yay! Oh no, we didn't have fun, boo! Right, good response, yay! Bad result, boo! This is more like just like connecting very, very deeply to that flow state. So what I'd like you to do is try to put yourself in a position where you can even achieve a flow state. And then start noticing what is it that's bringing you into the flow state and what is it that's taking you out of the flow state. And just keep noticing that again and again and again. Now, another exercise would be to notice what thoughts you're having that are keeping you in a flow state or taking you out of a flow state. So for example, let's say that you have a social interaction and it doesn't go like how you wanted. And then you're like, oh, I feel stupid, or they're stupid. That's not doing anything for you, right? That's not actually adding to your flow state. So instead what you could do is simply focus on the fact that you stayed with the process itself, the fact that very, very few people would actually have the courage to stay with the process itself. Focus on something funny about it, you know? So you can say 1,000 out of 10 just in your mind, right? And when you're doing this, don't just go 1,000 out of 10. It's like in your mind, it's like 1,000 out of 10, like it's in your nervous system, okay? Then you say, who would even do that? Like, who would even have the courage to even go say hi to somebody without being drunk, okay? You ever gonna drink alcohol?
No.
No alcohol for life, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff. We'll see how that ages. So, okay, so you say that, and then you find something funny about it, something about the process itself that makes you laugh, something that deepens your connection to the process, right? So it's like you want to get better at deepening your connection to a flow state, deepening your connection to the process, and removing your ego out of that process. Now, the next thing that I'd say as an exercise you could do is start auditing where you're needing a result and it's making you very, very lazy. So this is a paradox because life is about results, right? So for me, you'll see these kind of opposing viewpoints, because you'll see me making some videos and I'm like, you've got to be results oriented, you've got to get results. People who don't get results are losers, and so on and so forth. That is sort of one paradigm of teaching. So if somebody is being lazy, if somebody's not engaging, and somebody's actually okay with the fact that their life sucks, you've got to kind of start smacking them and be like, yo, you need results. You know, you are defined by your results, right? You've got to kind of start smacking them. But once you're sort of in momentum, you've kind of like initiated the car, you know, you've kind of spun the propeller on the plane. Well, then at that point, needing a result is actually, in many cases, not always, but in many cases, actually coming from a lower paradigm, because it's like you're cut off from flow, and the only way that you can get access to flow, or the only way that you can get access to a transcendent state.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Go ahead, buddy. Yeah, the only way that you can get access to a transcendent state is then by getting that little dopamine kick from a result. So Results orientation is a good thing for when somebody is apathetic and lazy and saying, you need to get the result. But then from there, once you're in that state where you actually have the hunger for a result and you're in a state of action, the need for the result actually depletes your focus. It actually lowers your results paradoxically, because what's happening is taking you out of the moment, is taking you out of the flow, and it's coming from a place of need. And I can tell you that socially, when you come from a place of need, it's really, really pushing away your results. But even in things like, say, public speaking, if you're public speaking, it should be an offering. It's like, here's an offering, here's an opportunity to listen to something. As soon as it looks in public speaking like you're trying to take something, you're pushing people away. As soon as you're needing something as far as making money, you start getting frenetic and weird about it. You start making bad decisions. It messes with your discernment, and then you're pushing money away. So at a lower level, saying, you know what, I hate the process of this, but I just really, really want the result, that is because you're cut off from flow. You're acknowledging that you're cut off from flow, and you're saying, I need the result now to get into momentum. But once you're in a high state of momentum, and then you're actually generating flow from the fact that you're acting in this kind of egoless way, in this kind of process-oriented way, and you're loving it, from that standpoint, then if you actually say, you know what, it's about the process, it flips, and that tends to get you a better result, because the deeper that you get in the process, the better it is that the quality of the work that you're gonna do is gonna be. And you also don't get as tired. So again, you'll see this where people come back from a bar or club exhausted and hating it, and they quit. And you'll see people that come back from a bar or club loving it, and they want to keep going. You'll see people that are building a business and they hate it and they quit. And you'll see people that love it and get addicted to it. And by the way, there's different levels they can get addicted to it, because maybe they're just getting a result, and they actually still hate the process, but they're getting results and addicted to it, and then later they quit. And so you'll see that one is a very sustainable way of winning, and one is a non-sustainable way of winning. But the more that you can deepen your relationship with being connected to the energy of expansion, the energy of flow, the energy of life, that is where life starts becoming very, very real. So for example, just to take a little side tangent, in the last video, I talked about what it means to be connected to the energy of life or energy of death. And I talked about how things like real friendship or real art or being in nature or giving, these are things that are actually living a real life. And you know, the need to just take and being scarcity, but maybe have everything structured in a row the way that you like it, that's actually a fake life. And those things are good, but only in support of your real life. Those things support real life, but they are not real life. So what I'm basically saying here is that you want to be doing exercises that connect you to the energy of life itself. You want to be saying to yourself, how do I deepen my connection to the outflow of life, to creativity, to playfulness, to fun, to connecting to that energy, rather than always being in this taker mode. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I think the movie Star Wars, for some reason, George Lucas or whoever was involved in this, they really, really nailed it. Because you see that when you know, the Emperor connects to the dark side, it ages him very, very quickly. And so you're gonna see when people are just continually needing the result, you're gonna see their mind densifying. So it's frankly one of two things that you're gonna see. You're gonna see one of two things. Either A, they get exhausted, they quit. That's usually one side of it. They get because they don't have access to flow independently. They don't have access to transcendent state independently. So they either quit, which is a very common thing. You'll see they quit, and they're bitter about it. And then they say that it's not their fault, and that they're the effect of life, and that life is unfair, and that they never could have done it, and they're being held back, and they blame everybody but themselves. You're gonna see a lot of that. Okay, and then they sit there stewing in this, and then getting energy off of self-pity, getting ego off of self-pity. And it can actually start to fuel them, mess with their discernment, it gets warped. It's sick. So you'll see that. Or what you'll see is people getting results, but their mind gets very, very densified. And what happens is that it actually can take them over. It can actually subsume their will. It can subsume their discernment and their access to flow. And they no longer have their own will. They no longer have their own discernment, because they're being manipulated by these various needs that they've built up for results. They built their will has been shaped around it, and their discernment has been shaped around self-deception in order to feel like their ego is always getting what they want. Then what often happens that people like that wind up creating sick, disgusting products for the people in the derp state. And so you get this weird kind of dom to sub relationship between people that are disconnected from flow, and then they create products and lifestyles and entertainment for people that are also disconnected from flow. And that's when you get this weird, again, the dom to sub relationship between the elites and the masses. And what winds up happening is that one group believes, I don't have access to flow, so I just want to be numb. I just want to be in the path of least resistance. I just want to not even have to think. If you tell me absurd things like 2 + 2 = 5, I'll believe it. Just keep governing me harder, daddy. You get one side of people like that. And then the other side that don't get real happiness from being in a flow state. They're not really living life. And so what happens with them is that they just keep creating these kind of like dominating products that suck the life out of people. So you actually see the energy of death sort of spinning and spinning and spinning, and it's creating a flywheel of that. And it's fundamentally coming from a complete scarcity-based paradigm, an energy depleting paradigm, a non-infinite paradigm, a very, very dense paradigm. And it just sucks the life out of people. And ironically, the super rich billionaire is having the life sucked out of them in the same way that the person in the masses is. And that's why you'll see a lot of rich billionaires that you'll see them when they're older, they just look deranged and sick. And these are people that in entrepreneurship are often viewed as role models. And then I go to explain to somebody, someone's like, I want to be a billionaire. And I'm like, making $1 billion is cool, but that can't just be the North Star. That can be in support of something else that's beautiful, but the result can't be the thing itself. So the thing itself is putting the creator before the creation. And so what that means is just continually coming back to, how do I connect to that flow state, right? So let's go back then to the social thing. We'll kind of circle back to where we started with this. When I said things like the different 3 fatigues, willpower fatigue, should you say hi, should you not? If you're in a flow state, you wouldn't care. You just go say hi. Should I have a persona or should I not? Again, if you didn't need anything, you'd be you, and you wouldn't need to put on a persona. Self-judgment fatigue. Oh, am I bad? Am I good? What do I think about this? Again, if you're in a flow state, you wouldn't start beating yourself up and just making yourself crazy that you didn't get validation, because you'd have access to your own dopamine. So do you see here that basically, when we're in this weird hamster wheel, or I had a video the other day where I had to use a Ferris wheel in Seattle, of dopamine kind of going up and down and up and down, that is kind of a weird position to be coming from. So, it's like instead you want to stabilize your dopamine. You want to stabilize it. And you want to get it to where the more that you engage in the process itself, and the more that you're just loving life, and the more that you're sort of in this non-mind identified state or non-egoic state, but rather just connected to flow, which then encourages you to just keep doing things and encourages you to keep exploring, makes you want to create art, makes you want to create real friendship, makes you want to get out of nature, makes you want to give, makes you want to also receive so that you can even give more. It just makes you very, very motivated. What winds up happening is you get in that mode, and motivation is easy. Very, very, very easy. And you'll have friends that are like, wanting to sit around or wanting to make things easier, and you're like, we can sit around for a bit, we could chat and laugh and have fun. Have a great time chatting, but that's not how I want to live my life. So challenge yourself for that. Now let me give you a couple other practical things you can do. Challenge yourself that if you do have to kind of stay home, then to laugh more. Challenge yourself to read a beautiful book and engage with the book at a higher degree of subjective enjoyment. Challenge yourself to eat food and to enjoy it even more. Challenge yourself to come out into nature and to be brought to tears. Go seek out beautiful moments that nature created, that God created, that you seek out beautiful moments with other people. Go meet somebody who you really, really like. Run off on a crazy adventure together. Spend the weekend together and really, really enjoy it. Enjoy it for the sake of the flow state itself, not because they're giving you something and you're taking and taking and taking. And what's going to happen as you do this is what you're going to find is that over time, your body, it will wear down, okay? Your body will wear down because you get older. I have more grays in my beard, things like that. It'll wear down. But ironically, as your body wears down and you're getting closer to the end of your life, then what starts happening is you start to identify more and more with the soul, more and more with the core essence. And so you'll start to see more light in the eyes coming out of your eyes. I'm wearing sunglasses now, sadly, but you get the point. You've seen a lot of videos from me. You'll see more energy and light coming out of the eyes at an older age when you're closer to death and when you're more run down. And so even though your body at a certain point obviously does run out of gas to an extent, you're going to see more energy in the soul. And so that's to where, say that I go run a seminar. Yes, at the end of the day, I'm going to have spent all my physical energy. And so I'm buzzing, but my hands are shaking a bit. I'm buzzing, but I'm tired. But my mind is all there. I might even have trouble formulating thoughts, but my awareness is actually heightened and is all there. I'm not beaten down. So I know that my body is the temple. I know that I've got to go give it a break. And at that time, I'm going to sleep in a pitch black room. I'm going to give my body the best herbs in the world. I'm going to go get some amazing berries. I'm going to go get amazing foods. I'm going to go do things like sauna, cryotherapy, and do things that rebuild the temple that houses that core essence. But at its core, as long as your core essence is building, you want to be thinking of that almost like a separate sort of thing than your physical energy. So think about it like mind, body, and soul. And if you're continually connecting that core essence and feeding it, you're feeding your soul, then what's going to happen is that, yes, your physical energy does run down at certain points, but you're gaining energy from work. And it's kind of a funny thing. It's very, very good as like a guru shtick. Like for me, say I'm in front of a new crowd, and I'll be up there for hours. They're like, how's he doing this? This is crazy. And it creates a lot of authority. It also creates tremendous attraction out in bars and clubs, a lot of authority there. And it gives you this kind of vibe that people just want to be around. From there, as you're doing more and more work, getting more and more done, you build a better life and people want to be around you more and more. So that's the idea of connecting to life, not connecting to the energy of death, actually enjoying life, true enjoyment of life, and coming from a standpoint that you're gaining energy from work. Imagine if you learn how to do this. Imagine the results you could get. But more important, imagine who you'd become and imagine how much more you connect to life. Now that you know this, you're going to see it everywhere. You're going to see that connection of, does this person connect with life or death? You're going to start to see that everywhere. You're going to cultivate this in yourself, and it's going to be a huge, huge game changer for you. What I'm trying to show you is how to not be oriented towards just living in your head and being mind dominated, and instead living outside your head. That's really the fundamental thing of what I'm trying to show you. And you're going to notice the difference. Just, are you outside your head to connect to what's around you and having a broader sense of things, or are you trapped in your head? And what you'll find over time is, as you get more and more out of your head, you have better social calibration, and you have more empathy for other people. You have a better understanding of how to add value to other people, but you also see where they're coming from, and so you understand, basic things like sales and marketing better, because you're not just trapped in your head with what you want, but you can see what they want, and now you know how to create inroads into what they want. Does this make sense? So we'll just wrap up, just catching a look of the final thing right here, the river, wrapping up, and I just hope that you enjoyed it. And what is it that being out here in nature does? It gets you to the point that you're just more naturally out of your head. Try to get into environments that get you out of your head. Realize the way that the little identity you have in social media, realize the way that you're in a city, realize the way, your bank account and all the different obligations that you have are trapping you in your head and making you very, very small, contracting you and making you a sick, sick person. Instead, the key is to get out of your head, and what happens is that awareness broadens, you get more empathy, you know how to add value, you know how to receive value, you're gaining energy from everything around you, not just little short-term dopamine spikes of the ego we're taking, and you've got more energy anyway. That is how you get endless motivation. And it's gonna take you to the next level. So this video is sort of the sequel to the one that I did also in the whole rainforest about, are you connected to life or death? That is the sort of foundation. We've shown you the practical application of it here. We've been tied in with a lot of my OG content. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you'll go use it, and I hope it changes your life. You're gonna feel the difference immediately of having way more power, motivation, and energy when you do this. I hope that you'll achieve it, and I cannot wait to see what you achieve. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
What's up? This is Dylan Cook, and today we're going to be looking at a monstrous tree in Hoh Rainforest on the Spruce Nature Trail. See, this is the tree that fell over. And you see, that's my brother Vincent, and that's how big the tree is. But if you look on top, you can see the trees literally growing on the top. And now let's look at this. It is completely monstrous. It is huge, massive. And now look at the side. There's an actual tree growing on it. And that's how big it is. And now I'm gonna call my brother Vincent to show you how big it is. Vincent, come here. Come here. Yeah, we're gonna show you how big it is. Now Vincent's standing next to that. Okay. And see, this is how big my brother Vincent is, and that's how big the tree is. You see, that's it literally growing. It is amazing. That's how big my brother Vincent is, my older brother, and that's how big the side of the tree is. You can literally see the trees growing on top of it. It is massive, monstrous, just like I said before. So, this is Dylan Cook signing off, and I hope you, and try to come to Hill Rainforest. Plus, because you can see this monstrous tree.